All right. Well, good evening. Thank you for sticking around through the day. We had a lot of great presentations. My name is Kevin Capeter, an Insights and Analytics Specialist with 3M. And our presentation's a little bit different than the ones you saw today. A brutally honest story of our own, journey throughout the Telium discovery, implementation, and iterative approach to optimization and betterment. We'll go through some kickoff challenges that we had, a shifted focus in the way that we deployed the tool, balancing innovation and governance. We've heard a lot about GDPR, e-privacy, the legacy legislation through the EU, our present and future state, and our recommendations for those who may be new to Telium or in the same shoes that we found ourselves in about this time a year and a half ago. So getting started, 3M, a quaint little company that you may or may not have heard of, is very, very complex. We have five global business units, 35 divisions and operating units, 55,000 SKUs, or 55,000 products, over 2 million SKUs, presence in 93 countries, over 37 languages, and sales in 200 countries. Couple that with our cafeteria style or buffet style MarTech and tech stack. You can see quite a few different platforms here. We've either piloted, licensed, tested, or implemented all of these products and more. And it's essentially a Rubik's Cube problem, all right? When we are evaluating these platforms, how do we implement these? And again, that coupled with our initial kickoff, in addition to 170 Telium profiles, over 700 loader rules, 800 tags, over 1,000 extensions being applied to over 5 different web platforms, over 100 different and unique domains currently in the platform. 3M owns about 18,000 different domains. And again, translating that into 30 different languages. So how do we go about deploying this? Do we do a centralized? The natural thing to do is to centralize it, right? Hold on to it. We saw the IBM folks start out with the centralized model around their load rules. Do we go with a hub and spoke model? A little bit of autonomy. And there's this whole data layer thing, right? We just might have bypassed that in our original implementation. And best practices. Are we really doing any of this right? It often makes you feel like this guy, right? A shameless product plug. So we shifted our focus. We were had quite a bit of tunnel vision going on, right? On the technical implementation. How do we do this? What do we do? Are we doing it right? So we took a step back and evaluated people, processes, and technology, which cliche, I'm sure everyone's heard, but could not be more true. So what we did was, in essence, built a cross-functional team, right? And the value here is really getting all of the stakeholders in one room and explaining to them why this is important to them, all right? Obviously, we have our IT folks in the room who are gonna handle implementation on the CMS side. We've got marketing folks who want their tags deployed. We've got legal, we've got compliance. Everybody needs to know why they have a part in this program. And what this did was build out these organizational synergies, right? We've got stories about how myself as an economist by training, an analyst by trade, meeting legal and compliance folks in the middle of the hallway. Somebody who I would never think I would cross paths with, I end up seeing in the hallway and saying hello. Building these relationships makes for a much more seamless transition into new enterprise-wide tools. So shifting these focus, team goals and these objectives, right? We talked about IT. They want to see page latency decrease. They want a UDO implementation. Well, we may have missed the ball originally there. Marketing, quick tag deployments. Legal wants GDPR compliance. They want e-privacy compliance. We've got our analytics folks wanting to capture uniform data, right? Proper naming conventions, taxonomy, so it makes the analytics much easier. So with exponential growth in these applications, we really had to build out this initial governance model. All right, so we had a cadence of meetings, ultimately reduced by being able to automate a lot of these platforms, and I'll go into that in a moment here. Ultimately, we decided to go with the decentralized model. All right, and the idea behind this is if you love something, you have to let it go. All right, so going from a centralized control point to a hub and spoke model. We have 5 digital resource centers, or DRCs, 6 if you include some specific ones. And really what this does is it facilitates promotion, or it promotes innovation, and in doing this, it really builds a more proactive than reactive relationship between us and our clients, all right? And the clients being the end users, the marketers, the analysts around the world. So the DRCs I mentioned, so we're strengthening our relationships with folks around the globe. We've got these 6 DRCs: Latin America, Western Europe, Central and Eastern Europe, Asia Pacific, Greater China area, and Canada. Okay? These core capabilities that we've set up and deployed and trained these DRCs on is really what enabled us to become ultimately successful in a deployment of the tag management platform and ultimately the data layer. The idea behind decentralization is really to allow for this organic innovation throughout our web properties, right? So when we say that, it's giving the foundation and enabling these DRCs to be able to build up on their own. They know what's best. They know how to run their business. They know how to gather these insights or what they're looking for, and laying the foundation for that tool. So with that, we have to balance, obviously, innovation and governance. And this is the data governance model that we had built out, all right, digital data governance. And all of these include the people, processes, and technologies that we had mentioned. We've got an online platform, our 3M Policy Central, which has full support from our legal folks. It has our tag management standard and procedure, so our global customers can visit this and get any content and criteria that they need in order to have these enabled. It also has our web cookie standard. From here, we go into the marketing and analytics quadrant. And really what we have is another checkpoint and control while having a completely decentralized system. So we have ticketing systems. We've got Salesforce, Jira in place, so our customers can place requests to have these tags implemented, all the while being vetted and implemented ultimately by Telium. And in keeping with the compliance and privacy component, we've got TIQ there for obviously tag management as another control point. We have the digital privacy tool there with European Union and cookie compliance laws, allowing Telium to have control over that is definitely beneficial. The analytics and privacy compliance, again, perpetual oversight through constant tag monitoring. So we're able to see what tags are outside of Telium, if there's any risk for data leakage there, and if there is, we evaluate it quickly. If it needs to be removed, it'll be removed, or if it needs to be implemented via Telium, we'll migrate it that way. As you can tell, it's a full cycle, right? It's ongoing, it's a perpetual process, and with each of these processes, we continue to refine. So it's never really done. But one of the main points here is that Telium is the foundational governance point, right? There's controls in place to have these tags implemented. We have privacy management, obviously. We've got workflows, but ultimately decentralizing it puts that customer first. Again, it's another view at customer first. It's our internal customers, but still it allows them to have full control over the tool while still maintaining that governance centralized. Another item that we had implemented is a baseline data layer. So I mentioned we've got about 170 different profiles, which means the potential for 170 data layers. So what we did is establish criteria from all of these DRCs, understood what their main focus points are in terms of collecting data and distributing it to their vendors. And we implemented this baseline data layer to each of our 170 profiles. And now what that does is it harbors innovation. For example, we've got JavaScript extensions that can be placed on search results page. Okay? For example, our B2B e-commerce page, we call it BCom. It's got standard search results page like anything else. If there's no results yielded, what it will do is prompt something as simple as reach out to your customer service rep. Here's their number. But this, as minor as it sounds, it's, if you think about it in terms of the customer experience, right? Otherwise, it would have, without this JavaScript extension, what we would have had is simply no results. Sorry. Okay? But the main idea is that it was deployed quickly. Simple JavaScript extension loaded to the page and published, and there's a solution to a minor inconvenience to that. So it speaks to the flexibility of the platform as well. And with that, we'll go over some of the epiphanies, our recommendations for what they're worth, and what we're continuing to do with the platform. And Dave Michelson is going to walk us through that.
Thanks, Kevin. Mm-hmm. Good afternoon. I need to interject kind of some context of why I'm here now and why we're splitting this up. Kevin joined us about halfway through our Telium evolution. And I was actually saddled is the wrong word. I guess that's a Freudian slip. Given the opportunity of deploying Telium in our company. And it is through that experience that I thought that I'd collect some experiences, epiphanies, recommendations to share with you so that you can accelerate the value realization of Telium in your company, possibly, by being aware of some of the speed bumps that we hit. And I think one of our earlier speakers this morning set me up nicely for that. Matthew from Pixar mentioned how in order to tell an effective story, you need to be genuine and you need to show vulnerability. And that's what I'm going to do in this set of slides. So as I mentioned, and Kevin has identified, we implemented TIQ, and then we held off on deploying the data layer. And I want to do some real-time market research here. Could I see a show of hands of those in the audience that have a fully productive data layer in place? Okay, I'm guessing it's a small minority. Well, this set of slides is for you because I was in your spot. And I had a fair amount of anxiety about this. I looked at the Telium documentation, looked at their videos, and it's full of attractive, young, hip, urban types smiling, looking at their computer because their data layer is in place. And I couldn't understand why I was thrashing with this. I thought, am I the only one? And it's been said that anxiety is the handmaiden of innovation. So anxiety forced me to seek solutions to this unsolved problem. And the first thing I did, the first epiphany I realized, was that I should attend the Digital Velocity Conference in 2015. And this was in San Diego, April of 2015. And it was an epiphany because the definition of an epiphany is an unintended, unplanned conceptual breakthrough. And that breakthrough, it might seem lame, but it was meeting one of you at a continental breakfast on the first day. I met this woman from another company, in essence a peer company, and she was having the same issues I was. And that was so validating. Subconsciously, I think maybe I was even blaming the tool, like, hey, there's something wrong with this tool. This data layer thing is hard, And she was having issues too. And just through that epiphany of validation, I felt energized to, okay, take this to another step. The next day, I met another colleague who was just a little farther than me. Actually didn't have the data layer in place yet, but had done that initial groundwork and had those initial breakthroughs that I wasn't quite aware of. So my specific recommendation is look around you during the conference today. If you're uncomfortable striking up a conversation, try to break through that. I'm not a natural at it. It was awkward for me to do that. But I was convinced that I had to do something. So I started asking questions and meeting people like you. So my first epiphany is just come here and try to meet people and talk about where you are in this process of getting that next thing of Telium in place. The next epiphany I had was realizing Telium's full potential. And what do I mean by this? As Kevin has already mentioned, we deployed TIQ for tag management and privacy management. And I don't know what it is, if it was subconscious or not, but that extensions tab in Telium? I would kind of go, ooh, that looks really, really intensive. I can get tags deployed in the tag marketplace. That works, it's easy, but those extensions, it's like, ooh, scary. So what I did was I forced myself to learn an extension a day. And Telium supports this. They support it with their community, they support it with their support people, plenty of documentation everywhere. And once you realize what the extensions can do, you realize that Telium is not just a tag manager. It is a data marketing data engine of some kind. I don't know. It's just not a tag manager. So if you are using the tag marketplace, great. But I hope you'll challenge yourself to explore the extensions tab and understand what each of those extensions does. And if you don't know, ask someone to conceptually describe to you what a possible application of that is. And the third epiphany I encountered was changing my mindset of what Telium support was. I feel kind of awkward doing this because in my significant career, support from a vendor partner is usually, well, kind of lame. You feel like you're talking to that guy when you're trying to close down your cable account. You get binary answers, you get escalated, your thing is never addressed. Telium, of course, will answer those binary questions, but they'll teach you. They'll point you to self-training materials. If you frame up a vague question, as in a problem statement, they'll work you through it. Telium support to me feels like an employee that's next to me as opposed to a vendor partner in San Diego or wherever they are that we're working with them. I think they're in San Diego. So my specific recommendation is really challenge your Telium support by being open about what your challenges and problems are. It's maybe a bit of vulnerability, like, hey, I don't know how to do X. I'm having a problem with Y. And they're pretty good armchair psychologists. So some recommendations. Kevin already alluded to this to some point about including other groups and organizations. And I know that seems like a duh thing, but I want you to think about the graphic that Jeff Lunsford, I hope I'm saying his name correctly, showed earlier today, in which he showed the disparate buildings representing the functions in a company, marketing, IT, et cetera. And I don't mean that 3M sets up barriers across these functions. I think most of the barriers, quite frankly, were in my mind. But yes, it's also true they're in different buildings. And as we tried to launch the full capability of Telium, admittedly, and this was on me, we used the traditional functional delineations of our company. For example, I would show someone in IT the extensions tab of TIQ, and I would think, hey, Can't you just get this? Won't you just make it work? Can't you just go forward? And what we really need is that, that person who is in neither of those two buildings of marketing IT, this virtual person in marketing technology who may be in IT, they may be in marketing, it doesn't matter, but they have that mindset of, oh, on your website, you have code that does this, and they also understand the marketing sphere of, oh, the marketer is trying to accomplish Y. So what I'm trying to say is look for those people, regardless of their function, who are somewhere between IT and marketing. But one thing that I would recommend is emphasize the marketing. We led with what we thought was an IT thing, and marketing would follow. And the opposite is true. Absolutely have to lead with marketing and follow along with IT. Kevin already talked about how we've migrated to a distribution of ownership of Telium. And I'd recommend you do that from the beginning. I don't mean that we don't have guardrails up, but they're very basic guardrails. And this is maybe an oversimplistic analogy, but think of the rental car you use versus your own car, and how you treat that rental car, and how you treat your own car. I mean, don't we kind of love the car that we own? We nurture it, we take care of it, we promote it, we're proud of it. And that rental car, it's okay to slam the door and throw a wrapper on the floor. There's something about giving away something. It's uncomfortable to do when you work in corporate. I can give testimony to that. But when you give up that control, the innovation of the ideas is magnified exponentially. There's a famous quote by Dr. Linus Pauling, the best idea is to have lots of ideas. Kevin is really, really smart, but there are Kevins around the world. And when we gave ownership of tag management to these DRCs around the world, we saw incredible innovation. No knock on Kevin that maybe we never would have seen otherwise. And finally, I'd also recommend moving away from demand-based model of tag deployment. And what I mean by that is you can set up a ticketing system for tag management, and if that's what you set up, that's what you will get. You will get requests for tag to be deployed on your platform. And of course, we have to have that as table stakes. That's what we have to do as a minimum. But again, as I said earlier, Telium is so much more than that. We have solved so many digital marketing challenges with Telium that we never would have realized if we just had a ticketing system for tag management. And what I mean by this is perhaps not coming to them with a solution of here's tag management, hope it works, but listen to their marketing problems, their marketing challenges. Because in almost every case, we find that there's an opportunity to apply Telium in those cases. So some recommendations in the technical area. I would absolutely recommend obtaining a superficial overview of what Telium can do. Again, maybe this was self-directed by me subconsciously, but it seemed to me that either through unintended self-direction or maybe through the curriculum that I pursued, I was getting directed to too much technical stuff first, and not about the so what of what these features of Telium could do. I think the data layer is a good example. We were given plenty of documentation of how to implement the data layer. Lots of additional training information, but it assumed that we understood the so what applicability of the data layer. It was like taking us right to the deployment of it. And I had this gap of understanding, and I wonder if you do too, If you're super confident about what the data layer is and what you want to do with it, great, go full speed ahead. But I had to back up and absorb the so what of what the data layer was and its applicability and benefit to us. And I also recommend all possible resources for UDO deployment. And what I mean by that is the inventory of events of the key marketing outcomes on your website might come from one person. They may have a good inventory in their head of all of the possible events, but they may not understand the difference between a page event or a click event. But they may conceptually understand those marketing things to be measured. Those marketing things then to be measured can be taken down another layer of the onion to people that understand how those events actually are defined as a web event. So we had originally hoped that there was going to be some magical resource in our company that could answer all of these questions, and we found it was different departments, different people. And don't be afraid to iterate. We thought we had to get the data layer right the first time. It was like, ooh, you put that in production and then what do you do? Wrong. I think we've iterated maybe 6, 7 times, and we might never be done, and that's okay too. And finally, I know it's been implicit, but I want to be explicit now. Use the data layer. I have kind of a curse on me. I have a genetic predisposition to being unable to moderate my voice and show excitement. Maybe it's my Nordic background or something. But you're looking at me now being excited. And please use the data layer. It is paying off in spades for us now. And I have to admit, there was a time, maybe sitting in the audience like you in April of 2015 when I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure it was going to be of value. And it absolutely is. And I wish I had worked through these issues sooner. And that's why I'm conveying these points to you. So where are we going now? And how might this be applicable to you? Well, as Kevin said, this has been an evolutionary experience. Absolutely, we had a vague plan for this. And to my earlier point of anxiety being the handmaiden of innovation, that's definitely how it's gone. And where we're headed, first of all, is, and this is happening now, is the agile process is folding over 3M and 3M digital marketing specifically. And this may seem like an academic thing, but again, you're not going to detect the moderation in my voice. But I am so excited about being on an agile product team. It has been a profound change of the way we work. Again, getting back to Jeff Lunford's graphic about these disparate buildings of different functions. In my product team, we have multiple functions co-located together, and that's such a simple thing, but it has been so profound. And the most profound thing is I don't see that functional label on my colleagues anymore. There's a IT guy on our team, and I can remember when I would see him in the hall or I'd send him an email, and I would put up my corporate marketing shield, and I could see his IT shield, and we would have that weird secret handshake, and it was so dysfunctional. And now we're one tribe. And what's really ironic is when someone from my organization in corporate marketing comes to visit our product team, even though they're my organization, I feel like they're the outsider because it's our tribe now. I want to protect my tribe. And this is one of the intended or unintended outcomes of agile product teams. It breaks down those false barriers and makes you focus on just delivering the product. Customer journey is, I think, something that everyone understands the operational definition of, and it's washing over 3M as well. And what a fantastic opportunity for Telium. Customer journey makes us work in just the right way. Marketers talk about those events that move customers through phases. We listen, we understand what they're saying and this need to measure, manage, and improve the velocity and throughput of the customer journey, and that is a sweet spot for Telium, especially Telium Audience Stream. So excited about an upcoming pilot we have with Audience Stream. In profound advanced analytics, I've made a career out of creating reports that I give to people that I'm not sure are even being looked at. But now we're working to pipe the output of Audience Stream into our data warehouse for real-time reporting and actioning. It's such a sea change. And none of this can be accomplished without, in my opinion, things we've already mentioned here. Decentralized control and collaboration and cross-functional teams in the way that I described, meaning don't look at those labels of functions. If this is accomplished by Agile, great. If you're not using Agile, I don't know. Look through some glasses that filter out those labels. That's my story. You know, I tried to think of a profound quote to wrap this up, and I can't other than maybe looking back at where maybe some of you were, where I was in 2015. And I think of that quote by Robert Frost, "The afternoon knows what the morning can only imagine." And I remember how stressed I was in April of 2015 and how I feel it's the afternoon now and I'm about to enjoy happy hour. And I hope you do too, and thank you for your attention.